Welcome to The Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to guide you through today's topic because we're taking a literal and metaphorical plunge into the absolute most alien, bizarre, and extreme environment right here on Earth. We're going straight down to the bottom of the ocean. So, buckle up because the deeper we go, the less this world resembles a place where life should even be possible.
Okay, let's dive right into it. 71% of our planet is covered by the ocean. Yet, incredibly, fewer people have stood at the very bottom of the sea than have walked on the surface of the moon. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. We live on this giant blue planet, but the vast majority of that blue is a total, absolute mystery to us.
In fact, we actually have higher resolution maps of the surface of Mars than we do of our own ocean floor. And the reason for this? Well, it isn't a lack of budget or scientific interest. It's simply because, believe it or not, space is genuinely easier to reach. The deep ocean is incredibly hostile. I mean, the crushing pressure would collapse a standard submarine like a tin can. The darkness is absolute. The cold is near freezing. And the things living down there look like absolutely nothing that should exist on Earth.
The edge of the unknown, the sunlight zone.
To really wrap our heads around the extremes, we kind of have to start with what's familiar. We begin our journey in the top 200 meters of the water column. It's this bright, vibrant world of coral reefs, dolphins, tuna, sea turtles, all that good stuff. The really crucial point here is how vital this thin upper layer is for our own survival. The phytoplankton living right here in this sunlit layer, they produce roughly half of all the oxygen on Earth. So literally every second breath you take comes from this specific zone. But as we begin our descent and drop past that 200-meter mark, well, the sunlight fades fast, and so does absolutely everything familiar.
Right as we cross that 200-meter threshold, the environment shifts drastically. The pressure begins to climb, eventually reaching around 100 atmospheres. At this point, we're officially leaving the world we know and stepping right into the unknown.
Entering the twilight zone.
Now, the incredible barreleye fish has perfectly adapted to this fading light. Get this, its head is completely transparent. It's a literal dome of clear fluid that you can see straight through. Inside its skull, it has these two barrel-shaped eyes that rotate, pointing upward right through its own forehead so it can spot the faint silhouettes of prey above. When scientists first caught these in nets, they actually thought the transparent heads were just damage from the fishing gear. Crazy, right? It wasn't until 2004 that researchers finally filmed one alive to prove this see-through skull was completely natural.
And sharing this dim space, roughly 900 meters down, is the vampire squid. Now, despite its terrifying name, it doesn't actually drink blood, but it is an absolute marvel of survival. It has the largest eyes relative to body size of any animal on Earth, and it can survive in oxygen levels as low as 3%. That's a condition that would literally be lethal to almost anything else. If threatened, it throws its webbed arms over its body, essentially turning itself inside out like a cloak, and then fires glowing bioluminescent mucus from its arms into the dark to confuse predators. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
All right, let's plunge down to 1,000 meters deep and see how this builds. At this depth, the darkness becomes absolute. No sunlight reaches here whatsoever. Zero. And the crushing weight of the water creates pressures ranging from 100 all the way up to 400 atmospheres.
The midnight zone's monsters.
So, with no sunlight and no plants, you really have to ask, what does everything eat down here? Well, survival in this zone depends almost entirely on something called marine snow. It's this eerie, constant biological rainfall made of dead organisms and organic matter just constantly drifting down from the vibrant world above. It's essentially the only consistent food source for an enormous amount of deep-sea life.
And because meals and mates are so incredibly rare in this vast darkness, the adaptations get pretty extreme. Take the anglerfish mating ritual, for example. It reads like true biological horror. In total darkness, a tiny male finds a much larger female and just bites into her, and he never lets go. His body fuses entirely to hers. His organs, his eyes, his fins, they all just dissolve. He loses his independence completely, becoming just a permanent reproductive attachment. This is so extreme that evolutionary biologists have actually documented a single female with 6 dissolved males attached to her all at once. Just wild.
Okay, we are now plunging past 4,000 meters. The environment is becoming impossibly hostile, and we're entering the largest, yet least understood habitat on our entire planet.
Surviving the abyssal zone. making up a staggering 83% of the ocean floor. Surviving down here requires radical adaptations just to keep your physical body intact under the immense pressure and the near-freezing cold. A major reason for this is what's called the carbonate compensation depth. Right around 4,000 meters, we cross this invisible chemical boundary. Below this line, the water literally dissolves standard bone and shell. Calcium carbonate just vanishes aggressively. This forces life to adapt. Creatures down here are mostly soft, gelatinous, built essentially from water. The rare exceptions actually have to use specialized organic coatings or even armor their exoskeletons with aluminum just to keep from dissolving away.
Imagine roaming this freezing, pressurized wasteland. That's exactly what giant isopods do. They resemble your standard everyday woodlice, except they are the size of footballs. They'll silently wait in the pitch-black stillness, sometimes for years, until a massive meal, like a dead whale, drops from the sky. They'll aggressively strip the carcass down to absolutely nothing and then go right back to waiting. And then we have deep-sea hydrothermal vents, which represent one of the most astonishing discoveries in marine biology. Down where tectonic plates pull apart, water superheated above 400 degrees Celsius blasts out into the freezing ocean. But here's the absolute magic of it. Entire thriving ecosystems exist around them with absolutely zero sunlight. You've got 2-meter-long tube worms, ghost white crabs, and shrimp thriving here by converting harsh chemicals from the vents directly into energy. It's literally life without a sun. This discovery actually changed how scientists think about the possibility of finding alien life on other planets in our universe.
We are now dropping past 6,000 meters. We're descending into ocean trenches so unimaginably deep that the pressure exceeds 8 tons per square inch.
The Hadal Zone's secrets. Most people just assume the deep ocean is this totally silent abyss. But it isn't. When researchers dropped hydrophones into the Mariana Trench, they didn't hear silence. They heard a constant, eerie acoustic symphony. You've got the low rumbling of distant earthquakes, the screeching of shifting tectonic plates echoing off trench walls, and the moans of whale calls tumbling down from miles above. The researchers famously described the recordings as sounding exactly like a haunted house.
But here's the sobering twist to our deep dive today. Swarms of tiny shrimp-like creatures called amphipods scavenged the very bottom of the trench floor. Well, when scientists analyzed them, they found human microplastics already embedded in their tissue. Even here, nearly 11 kilometers below the surface, in the absolute deepest, most remote, and terrifyingly pressurized place on Earth, human pollution has already arrived.
Protecting our unmapped world.
You know, the deep ocean might seem completely alien, but it is deeply connected to us. Remember, as a global community, we have the power to protect these waters. And protection is vital, especially when you step back and look at the big picture. According to the Seabed 2030 initiative, we have only mapped roughly 25% of the ocean floor. Think about that for a second. That means 75% of this massive underwater world is still completely unmapped, totally dark territory.
So I really want to leave you with this lingering thought today. If the 25% we have mapped already contains glowing stealth predators with invisible beams, single-celled organisms the size of dinner plates, and fish that physically dissolve into one another to mate, what bizarre horrors and spectacular wonders are waiting for us in the dark 75%? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive explainer, and keep exploring.